Hi, good evening everybody and welcome to Entering the Unknown. So this week we are joined by the wonderful Eamonn Van Harris. Good evening, Eamonn. How are you?
Hi, you all right?
Evening, Eamonn.
Hiya.
So how are you? What have you been up to?
I'm tired. I'm just tired.
Sorry, are we keeping you up?
Yeah. No, when you just have one of them long days, it's just been a long day. But funnily enough, I've been working on, we're trying to move. So basically, the antenna of Pegasus is in a storage unit because it's that ridiculously big. So I've been sorting out some time to get it moved into my new place, into the workshop. So been trying to sort out the logistics of that. Got to hire a van and everything to move it.
It's these big antennas, like a CV radio thing, is it?
Oh no, it's a case. It's like a big server case. I think there's some pictures of it somewhere, but I'm going to be building on top of it as well, like more to it, which is ridiculous. But
is it not big enough as it is that you need to?
Oh yeah, no, it's getting out of hand, but I'm just going to add to it.
Are you trying to beat the Leaning Tower of Pisa or something? Is that where you're going?
Yeah, it is huge. The cooling is a lot better now as well. So I've had to build radiators in there to cool it down and different things. So it's not the safest thing, but I'm going to make it safe.
Selling it as we need to go on, Eamonn.
When you go to an event, you always have
radiation suit.
You get a pack test, and I always dread it. I'm like, oh, here we go. So when we go in and to a different event, different location, I'm always busy trying to make sure we pass that test and just get it over the line. But we always do. We usually do. We try to.
So has there been any occasions where it's been pack tested and they've been like, no, sorry? There
was one occasion where during an episode I was filming our Most Haunted, I could smell something burning and I was wondering what it was, and it was a part of the Infinity Machine. Was that because I'd crammed so many wires in and because I've been traveling around the country with it and kind of just throw it in the boot of my car. You could hear voices and then it just went dead. I thought that's really weird, so you could smell all this like burning smell and the voices went off. I was like, yeah, that's not good. And we're in this manor house that's got really expensive stuff around, and so I ran to it. I could see the smoke, and but it didn't catch fire, luckily, at that time. So that's the only time really that it's been dangerous. But it passed the test actually before then as well, just a few days before.
So that's not concerning at all.
No. Trust me.
The last time we actually spoke, Eamonn, you did make it very clear that you are prone to having a little fire or two when it comes to building.
Yeah. Try not to. It's not like a hobby. It's just
arsonist in your spare time.
Some fire.
Not an arsonist, just in case anybody quotes me on that.
Yeah, no. Oh God, yeah. Not an arsonist.
Definitely not. So, Eamonn, the last time we were speaking, it was very brief because we had to go clap, didn't we?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we did. Yes.
Yeah. The last conversation we had was back at the beginning of lockdown, wasn't it?
Late April, I think. I'm guessing.
Yeah. So, and back then I was quizzing you all about how the Infinity Machine was dreamt up, where it came from, how you've built it, the changes throughout the years, because it has changed quite dramatically in some areas.
Yeah, massively. Yeah. On that, it's always so from the machines from the beginning. I had the machines actually created. There was the Infinity. Let me think. It's funny because there's some that never really made it, because I made two others that were just the same. Like they didn't, if anything, they were worse than the Infinity, and less safe. So I learned a lot from, I made something called the Prism, and that was actually really promising. And it just had this nightmare heat problem and in the end I actually just scrap it, and that was actually really powerful. But then what tends to happen is you create something, you obviously learn from it, you go through more tests and you see how, you know, what works, what doesn't, and then I'm prone to just throw it, like if I've got an idea, I'll just like scrap everything I've got there and start again from scratch and go for this new idea. And I did it with the Prism. I actually released that to a group of people in Germany. I did a live test and it went really well. But we had like all kinds of problems with the electronics on it. And but it just didn't feel like a big enough step from Infinity. So, you know, everybody actually still preferred the old machine after a while. I was like, okay, so I've made something that's not as good now. So I just saved up all my energy and time and money to put into Pegasus and went, right, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna go large and just go all out. Every idea I've ever had is going to be in this machine. And it's, I mean, although it's finished now, there's still parts of it that are not connected. There's still parts that need reconnecting, and it will, you know, so there's quite a lot of work. I mean, I've been doing some live tests with a team, with the New World Science team, who just sort of listen to, we use something called MixLR. So we listen to live tests of the voices coming through, and you can, it's been busy, but there's still a lot more, you know, to connect to it. And the antenna hasn't really, I've been using the old one, so there's still loads more. So it could sound a lot better than I even could ever dream of. So yeah.
Have you got any pictures of it yet, or you're not letting them?
Yeah, I think I put some on Twitter actually. I think I did, but I'll put some more up later on. And because we got the bit that I'm really enjoying at the minute, the geeky side is we've got like an operating system that's built in. So we got its own. I work in the games industry, and I got a programmer to help me create an operating system, a bit like DOS on a computer. So now Pegasus actually runs itself. It's its own, you know, it's got its own software. So when it starts up, it does things like it tests all the fans, so you hear them all go off, checks voltages, does a safety check. I'm not one
because you don't.
Yeah. So I don't know if I trust it yet, to be honest, because it believes that everything is hunky dory, and I'm like, that no, not in my experience. And then it's really, it's coming along nicely now. It's become like its own unit. I was talking to one of the engineers who helps me out on this, who I've just brought on board, and we were saying that our next step, because we've always looked at hardware all the time, and I just keep building this thing bigger and bigger. We're looking at software, audio software now. So we're looking to design our own software, which can filter out noises, because sometimes it works really well. It's better than the other machines, but every so often you can still hear a lot of the background noises coming in. So the high, sort of really squeaky, high-pitched voices and things like that. So we're trying to develop a piece of software that actually gets rid of all of that and just focuses on the voice. And so there's quite a lot going on.
That can't be easy to complete, to be fair. That must be really difficult to create this software, because what do you use as an example?
Yeah, you know, and we always discuss this, and it's frustrating sometimes, because I tend to go for walks and just have a think about, you know, I'll look out at the lake and have a think about what I'm going to do next. And because there's nowhere to look, there's no examples, and everything's a new step, you know, and it's either going to work or it's not. And we've had some times where we failed with it, and we've put all our energy into something, it's not worked. But then we've had times where we've had loads of success. So I think with software, it's more like, I think we've pushed as much as we can out of hardware now, and it is getting to a point where there are heat problems and things like that, and there's loads of engineering that goes on. So after this is actually, weirdly enough, this is the first machine which has been completely reliable. Like, I left it on for about 26 hours a few weeks ago, and not an issue. It ran perfect. It was weird. There was no funny smells. I'm like, I'm good at this, you know. But yeah, so I've learned a lot, and I've got better at engineering. So it is actually safe. The antenna's, you know, mad as a box of frogs, but it's dangerous as hell, you know. So I need to work on that, and that's why I'm taking out of storage, because 2,000 volts is running around in there, and there's different step-up transformers and different things. And it's one of them where when you start it up, I tried it in my house last time, and the lights sort of dim for a minute when you switch it on. So, there's a lot of draw there, you know, and God knows what
your electric supplier absolutely loves you, is all I'm saying.
Just the whole street dims out for a minute, like, can't seem to get it working. You know?
There's poor Doris down the road, like, my kettle's not working. Eamonn's at it again.
Just fusing a whole estate, and I'm just like, oh, that's weird, it's not coming on. But so I'm looking for ways that we don't draw as much on startup, because it calms down after a while. But,
so is it literally just on startup then that it steals all the power?
So much, yeah, and the noises, you hear all the fans come in. And the radiators start, everything just comes on at once, and there's a big there's like a 200 watt, no, I think it's 1,000 watt bulb actually that's in there, that's used. So we have like solar panels as well that it actually turns the light into sound, so energy, but it's electrical pulses from the light. And I use I'm trying to think what it's sulfur, you know, like the street lights that you get. Mm-hmm. So it's the same kind of bulb you would find in a sports hall is in that antenna. So that also causes a lot of heat, but it's really important for the work because that light actually creates a current, and the sulfur in there with the quartz, because the sulfur and the quartz crystal actually work really well for the antenna. So yeah, it gets a bit. Where
did the idea from using the quartz come from?
Weirdly enough, I remember doing a recording and I was in my car and I was driving quite slow and I'd left the recorder on, and I was going under a light, just a street light, and it was a specific one. It's these specific types that they're actually quartz, and they warm up. You know, the ones that are green to start with, and then as they get warmer, they turn into like a natural white color. And I noticed that the voices seem to get better with that, and it's to do with the reaction of quartz or something. It's to do with well, first of all, it's you know, there's a lot of electricity there, so as you pass through, you're going to get an interruption on medium wave or something like that. But with the recordings, that wasn't on medium wave; that was just on a recorder with a microphone. And I noticed that the voices that I get all the time were actually much louder and much clearer when I went under one of them. So on top of this stuff that's already in the machine, I started looking at the sort of alchemy side of stuff, and how, so a lot of the machine isn't just electronics, there's a lot of chemical reactions and things going on. There's things like mercury in the machine, so it is quite dangerous, so you've got to be really careful. So you've got all them volts going around, and there's different types of acid, mercury. You know, if there's an explosion, you're screwed. You know?
So basically, next time I see the machine in action, I'm either going to get a really good tan, or I'm going to become some sort of mutant. Is that where we're going?
Eamonn's going to have barriers all the way around it, about 20 foot round it.
Have you seen that Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Where you're working on Pegasus. How do you know? Yes.
What gave that away? So, going back to the streetlight thing, O'Neill claimed when he built the Spiricom that he built it to specifications from somebody that he'd been working with who had died 6 years earlier. Yeah. Has anything like that ever happened to you?
Yeah, I mean, I was saying it's funny because I know a lot of people are writing about scalar at the minute, and as I've been pointing out, I'm the first, or New World Science the first.
Well, actually, yeah, I think we should all take credit for this, because it was actually on our last chat that we actually discussed this, and then all of a sudden, since then, everybody seems to be picking up on it. So we're taking credit for that with you.
So and the truth is, the way I got that was because I said, "How are you doing it?" And they said, "Through scalar." It was that simple. Then what you do is you reverse engineer and you find out how you get there. When you look into it, you go, "Actually, there's no other way this could work. It has to be scalar because it's something that doesn't abide by our physical laws." So yeah, you do get as the voices get clearer, it's a lot easier. And this is weird. What you get is you get kind of like an instinct. So say if you'll be sat there 1 minute and an idea will just come to your head and it sounds great. So I got to the point where I thought, as crazy as these ideas are that are coming in, I'm just going to accept them and just act on them. And that's how I got this far, to be honest, because recently I found myself being less inclined like that. And I'm starting to get more practical and trying to use current theories that we've got. And you find yourself going backwards. So I'm trying to be more open and trying to think outside the box more. It's like divine intervention.
Do you think that you need some sort of spiritualism or mediumistic skills to work alongside the machine?
I think you do. I think I was having this chat with somebody a few weeks ago, and they were saying about, if you're a believer in the machine and what it's about. And I said, well, it's a bit like trying to build something but not believing it's going to work. It's never going to work. You've got to treat it as a subject. And I think with that, I was just open. I didn't try to complicate it with, what is the meaning of life. I just thought, right now, there's a signal coming through and none of us know where it's coming from. We've had Archiva and people like that try to prove that, we've used their kind of Faraday cage to try and disprove it. So we've done all the disproving in the world. So at what point do you go, all right, we've got to really take this seriously because there's something in this. I mean, you hear about, I think it was the CIA or FBI, one of them, who actually invested in stuff like this. So if they're doing it, and you've got people like SETI spending millions, possibly, I don't know how much it's got up to. There's got to be something, at some point you've got to go, yeah, well, maybe, maybe.
Well, I think we're all agreed that there is something, out there, if you will. There's definitely something. But it's what that is. I mean, even with all the experiments that I've done over my years in the paranormal field and all the time that I've spent with your machine, I still cannot say what it is that brings it through. Is it people? Is it residual energy? I can't answer that, because if I could, I'd probably be a millionaire, because then I'd have just defined what a ghost is, right?
I think there's, when you actually take it back and thinking of the bigger picture of life, if you think of where we were 100 years ago, and I always use this, this analogy that if you took an iPhone back to the 1920s and you showed them what this is, and
could you imagine?
They'd be like, what is, if we show them the possibilities of where we are, everything, you just think people were crazy. So I always think, what if in 100 years' time, because we're still, as the Earth, as the human race, we're still in the infancy of technology. We still, in some areas like silicon, we've kind of hit the peak now, and we're looking at other things. But we're still discovering many things, and things like things with CERN. We're looking at, we're looking at other realities that exist, other universes could exist. The possibilities are endless. I always say this from New World Science, but they really are, because there's just so much that we haven't discovered, and trying to use our current knowledge to try and understand it is just pointless. I mean, we can rationalize and we can start to say, all right, that's a load of crap. That's not real.
So doing that, does that make somebody a skeptic, or does that just make them a rational person?
I think, the thing with being a skeptic and a believer, I think both get a bad rap. I think it should be, a believer should be, so the way I look at it, somebody's asked me before, like, am I a skeptic or a believer? I'm like, I'm in the middle, because there's certain, if you say you're a believer, it means you believe everything that happens, and you just, and you will be viewed in a different way.
Absolutely.
If you say you're a skeptic, you're completely closed-minded, so or you're viewed as being closed-minded, but actually, you've got to have I think the word skeptic's probably the wrong word. It should be, I'm somebody who's, you're either really rational and you try to use common sense and rational thought, or you're completely away with the fairies and you're looking for something in your life, which a lot of people are, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, either way the fence that you sat. But some people can be looking for something, probably look too hard, and then think that that thing they find is the thing that it is, and it's not, you know. So if you sat in the middle, you're good to go.
I'm a fence sitter, and
yeah,
I'm quite
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm quite open about being a fence sitter.
There is two sides of the fence with paranormal, and you know, as we were discussing before the show, paranormal. I don't want to call it an industry, but it kind of is.
What else can you call it?
I can't think is it a community? It's quite disconnected because people everybody's got, it's like it's in everybody's heart, whether you're a skeptic or a believer or whatever. Everybody's got these strong opposing opinions and everybody wants to be heard. And then you see debates turn into arguments and fallouts. And and it's such a shame, because if we actually just work together and try to figure out what the hell is going on and we'd come further, I think we are behind. We'd be much further ahead. You know.
See, I don't see that working long term.
No.
Sorry, I'm getting feedback.
Humans are humans, aren't they? And humans are always opinionated. I've got opinions. Everybody's got opinions, and I just think when it comes to this, we also don't have enough knowledge, and everything we do is a debate. It's all theory. It's all guesswork.
Not a lot of people are prepared to listen to the debate and actually have an adult civilized conversation about your beliefs. Whichever way you look at it, you know, that's exactly what it is. It's belief factor. And then they just won't have that conversation without it turning into some form of a full scale argument, which is just ridiculous.
And it gets personal, doesn't it? And I think people, again, when you're going into something like this, I guess if you're debating something like a football team, it's not going to intrude on your beliefs growing up. Whereas with the paranormal, the problem is with it is everything you believe, everything, even if it comes to religion, anything, is everything, the paradigm that's been created around you all of a sudden falls apart, because this thing that's come in, there's so many questions. It opens a can of worms. And in some ways, not proving it is probably not a bad thing, because if you prove it, imagine the amount of questions that will come from it. You know, like, I put the work out there and I think, right, I know what I believe. I believe in the voices that are coming through, but I'll leave this for people to have an opinion on, and they can take it, they can leave it, they can throw it away, they can run away with it, do whatever. You know, all I'm doing is passing that on. But it does challenge your everyday beliefs. And then if you think that's, you know, if that gets proved somehow, can you imagine everything else? It just opens such a can of worms.
See, this is it. It's a no-win situation, because ideally we would like to be able to prove that there is some sort of life after death, or consciousness beyond the passing of one's body. But in doing so, are we going to be, or if we ever do so, are we just going to be opening up a whole new can of worms? I don't think it's a win situation. I don't think
we're, I mean, in 100 years' time, if the Earth's still here, I think we're ready then, maybe, but I don't think we're ready, because I don't think, they always say this, don't they? Like, if there was such things of aliens and they came here, would we be ready for that? And it's like, well, I don't think we would. It would, everything.
But how can you believe that? Not you specifically, just people in general. How can you believe that ghosts are real, but not be open-minded to the possibility of other life forms?
Yeah, it's, the universe is endless, isn't it? We only know what's around us, and we're limited by our eyes, by our technology. We're completely limited, and although we make massive leaps, we're still so far behind where we need to be. Like, I know where we should be. I don't know where we should be, but with what we have, you just know in 10 years' time even that it'll just dwarf it, you know. And so we are limited to, we're basically like this little house. There's a whole world, and we're just looking outside in our garden, but we cannot see the whole world yet.
I quite like that analogy.
Yeah, I quite like that. I'm going to take that.
Well, you came up with it.
I know, I came up with it. God, that's brilliant, that. But it's
Was that an on the spot, was it?
Yeah, it was on the spot. Quite surprised. My brain's not been working today either, so that must have been divine intervention. But
I'm impressed. What can I say? Well done.
So going back to your Pegasus machine, do you think not only can it pick up spirits from wherever they are, but can it pick up alien as well? Signals and stuff like that, voices.
I reckon. See, my theory on that, I think there's a bit of crossover, and that's another part of New World Science. This is why, secretly, well, actually, publicly, SETI have been involved with us, but that's another stage that we'll get to, because there's a bit of confusion with this work, because we get, Lena, who always comes through a lot, I'll say to her, when did you die? And she's like, I never died. Like, well, did you live here? And she's like, no. She's never been here, and Vincent's never been here. So Lena, who Friedrich Jürgensen also recorded as well, and these other team members, they've never lived here apparently. They're like operators, so you can't think.
What got me last time from the first interview we did with you is when you said that they were talking about dials and maybe they haven't got the right things. So is that coming from another planet? Is that coming from another alien? Another alien world?
I think.
And they're trying to communicate with you.
My belief is I don't think it's something that's like a distance away. I think it's something that's with us, but it's on a different basically another universe.
So like a different plane, so to speak.
Yeah, a different existence, just a different vibrational matter, different vibrational frequency, sorry. So, I mean, everything we have, like I was saying last time, our cells vibrate, our atoms vibrate at a certain frequency. This vibrates at a certain frequency, the table. But their world will be the same. Like whatever body they've got will be on a different frequency, but their whole physical surrounding. Because every time they discuss something, they talk about they're not floating about like I expected, or led to believe. They've got very physical, everyday things going on. So they've got, one of the recordings talks about a cottage where they do tests and they have a box they work on and they talk about different frequencies and they talk about problems with time. Time comes up a lot. And they talk about time not existing on their side, only on ours. And then, so it just opens up so many philosophical questions. So I start to go, all right, you know what? I'm an engineer. I'll just focus on making this clearer, and then then just pass it to somebody else. But it does make it is interesting because you think if there isn't any time over there, because we live on time, don't we? It's man-made, but I couldn't. Like I tried to think of the universe before Earth was here and everything, and they talk about the Big Bang, and I always think, what was here before though? Because we always think of time. It's always, but there must have been something, and so there's so many. Again, this opens up another can of worms. There's so many things that we're limited.
But this is it with the paranormal in general, though, isn't it? Because when you go down one path, it's only so long before you hit a rabbit hole that makes you question everything that you thought you knew anyway.
Yeah, no, it does, and that's the thing. You get when you get one question answered, and the funny thing with this work is you don't really get a question answered. You get another question given to you, and it is a rabbit hole, and that's why it's important to stay grounded. Like I say to the team about breaks, I try to keep it light-hearted, if you can call that, and try to just stay grounded, because it can, if you look into it too much, you can get carried away. It does take you on a bit of I went on a wild adventure for the first 2 years. I hadn't had a clue what was going on. The first 3 months were just, I was just sat there. I didn't tell anything about it.
Pure chaos.
What is going on? And that's when I go out and record on my own, I look like I was having an affair or something. I just genuinely was going out recording because I was too embarrassed to tell anybody. And I needed to make sure before I told anyone that it is what it is, because before all that, I was kind of like, you know, what a load of crap and stuff like that. So I thought I have to be really careful here because I don't want to be judged either. So there's always that fear of how people will see you, and I'm not really bothered about that anymore. I just think, just be honest.
That's long gone.
Yeah, you know, I've brought machines out that speak to the dead. That's gone now. That's we've crossed that bridge. But yeah, I think it's about just be honest, put out what you've got, try and figure why it is doing what it's doing. If you haven't got an explanation, don't make one up. There's nothing worse than when you get a skeptic and they'll leap to different areas to try and make, you know, say, and believers can be like that as well, to try and justify it. Just be honest. If you don't know, you don't know. You know, there's no shame in that.
That's the key, in my opinion, honesty.
Yeah, and I think especially with something that has, you know, hundreds of years ago. I mean, how long has paranormal been about? You know, God, since the, you know, witchcraft and God knows what. So there's always been trickery involved. So it's always going to be scrutinized. It's probably a lot better now than it was 200 years ago, when people were believing anything that was in front of them, and maybe
we'd have all been burned 2 years.
Yeah, no, oh God, yeah, I would have been. You know, over and over. Pegasus won't have burned. I mean, Pegasus will burn itself, to be fair. Just leave it on for long enough. But, yeah. Although it did 26 hours, so I'm happy about that.
26 hours and you've still got a house.
Yeah, I've not switched it on since then. I'm too scared.
To Eamonn, to Eamonn.
Yeah, and also as well, any locations thinking of having me on board, I will pat test. Just to be clear, there will be pat testing involved of sorts. No,
well,
really.
Speaking of locations, I'm going to seriously put you on the spot here.
Okay.
Will you come and join us on an investigation in October?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I say that with joy and excitement, but yeah, okay, yeah. When is it? In what date is that?
We'll find one for you.
Yeah, and I have no idea.
We're just going to make one up now.
How many lorries do you need?
I was just thinking that, you know. Yeah, okay, yeah, let's do it. Why not?
Very nice.
Cheers.
You've all heard that now.
Very welcome.
No, I was thinking of going out on an investigate. I wanted to at some point, so I'm not.
So when was the last time you was actually out?
It's only ever shows I've been doing, so it's always been. I think it might have been with UK Haunting when I did the live show at Halloween. Was it or Christmas?
So
I think it was Christmas.
That was the Haunted
Halloween.
Museum.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and since then I haven't really. So at first when I started everything, I used to go out and loved investigating, and then I don't know, it just became an occasion really where you like getting all your equipment ready, and then
was it because you spent too much time with me?
Yeah, she put me off. No, it's just I don't know. When I first go on investigations, it was fun because there was less to take, but now it's just become an absolute pain in the backside because there's so much setting up to do, and then I end up getting stressed because something won't work or I've left a cable, then I have to start making stuff on the spot. Without fail, I always, and you probably saw last time, I always make something on the spot. I don't know.
Especially with the Infinity machine.
Oh, Christ, yeah.
Well, no, they didn't have it working, and it was working.
It's just, I think they do it on purpose. I really just to watch me. There's nothing worse when you got a crowd of people, or you're going live on air, and you turn the machine on. You're like, here we go. Oh, there's nothing coming through. Fantastic. And there's a problem because there should be a noise or something, and it's completely dead. I've had that before. I had that on
No pressure.
Haunted, actually, yeah. And it was just, they actually, do you know, on Celebrity Haunted, they pushed the show, the live bit, where we're doing the final bit, by 15 minutes to give me a chance to fix it. And I could hear them upstairs, and the producer kept running down saying, we're ready. I'm like, no, I can't see, we're in a dungeon or something. There's spiders everywhere, endangered spiders. I haven't got the, and then it just came on by itself. I didn't touch it.
Endangered spiders?
Yeah, apparently.
Endangered spiders.
Yeah,
I would be like, where's the Hoover? How do I get rid of these?
That was the Pegasus antenna as well. So they only told me afterwards, after I took it home, and I thought, okay, well, everyone's alive, so it can't be that bad. So they're probably breeding around Manchester. I don't know.
That's where the endangered spiders came from. Thanks for that, Eamonn. Now we've got another issue with the world to worry about. Mutant spiders.
2,000 volts and that big light bulb. I have no idea what's going to go down in there.
Going spiders.
Oh my good God, that's me not sleeping tonight now. Thanks for that conversation.
I might leave it in storage, actually. I forgot about it.
Just think of all those spiders that got inside, just lay in the nests.
God, I didn't even remember.
Enjoy your sleep tonight. Oh yeah. So the idea of EVPs was first created, well, not necessarily created, but stumbled upon, and the idea behind it was to demonstrate contact with the spirit world. So how do you feel that this has paved the way going forward? Because obviously, I mean, I know that you're a well-read man. Do you know what I mean? We've spoke several times. I think I know you pretty well enough now to say that you are quite an intelligent man. And once you've got something, I did say quiet. Let's not push it. No, I'm only joking. So I know that you're quite well read, and I know that once you get your head on something, you will focus, you will read, you will research, you will dig deep until you find an answer that you feel is the path that you're going to go down. So how do you feel that the EVPs especially has led the way? I'm so sorry about the noise in the background. I'm just going to text a child.
Led the way. What do you mean, into the work I'm doing now? Or
absolutely, yeah.
I think when I first started off, it was I remember just stumbling across. I mean, I'd had things happen when I was a kid, but I remember stumbling across a book, and it was on holiday. It was a Friedrich Jürgensen book, and it was something like, it was translated. I think it's called Voices of the Dead or something. I thought it was odd. And the thing that I liked on it was the reel to reel that was on. That was it. I thought, all right, yeah, I collect all that stuff, so I'll have a look. But I love engineering, so I love understanding how things work. And I thought, right, Voices of the Dead, there's a tape player there. This is interesting. And when I started to read it, and I understood as well as an engineer that Jürgensen, how he described everything made a lot of sense. He'd talk about, especially back then when he was getting voices through, there was no radio or anything, and we weren't really advanced when it came to technology. We were talking about 65, I think, 63, something like that. And this is a man who earned a lot of respect. He had the keys to the Vatican, if you call that, or, I don't know if that's what they call it. Painted the Pope. He was a film producer, but he was known as somebody who was really down to earth. So I think when I'd seen normal paranormal stuff, I kind of veered away from it, because everybody kind of had this madness attached to them. And, a bit like that guy on, have you seen that Alien show? He has like, his hair is on end, and I can't remember what his name is. Someone will know who's watching.
Is it like me of a morning?
It's just,
I look similar to that in the morning.
This guy is mad, but he kind of dumbs it down in a way. In my opinion, he just makes it all look a bit crap. And so, but with Jürgensen and Raudiver and Raymond Cass, these are really well-respected people. And I think when I was reading their methodologies, they were all really similar. And these people hadn't met. They did meet eventually. I think Raudiver was influenced by Jürgensen's work.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there's some reels as well. So there's somebody in Gerrard's Cross, Colin Smythe Publishing or something, and he's got copies. I've asked him a million times. I've said to him I wouldn't mind that, because I'd like to digitize them and get them on it, online for people to, and share that. So we were trying to buy that for the New World Science Foundation, to share that and have like a knowledge center, because things like that I think are golden and will probably get lost down the line.
Absolutely, yeah. It was Giorgio, by the way.
Yeah, I think it probably was. Yeah, because somebody else had passed away.
Chris.
Yeah, because he was around and he was telling, and it was interesting hearing his story, because I was fanboying a bit at this point, because I loved hearing about the stories that he was telling, and he was saying that it'd be nighttime and Jurgensen and Rowdy will be having this discussion of how best to get in touch, and and he's there, and they've got all these reel-to-reels, and it's as I say, it's nighttime, there's nothing, it's all dark, and you've got these two legends. And I thought, to be sat in the room with them, and just when all this was relatively new to them as well. And
wouldn't you just love to be a fly on the wall?
And he's got those recordings, because he had recordings of them recording, and I was trying to get that because I wanted to turn it into a bit of a documentary. So, but yeah, just back to the sort of EVP stuff. So I think once I got my first voice that came through, which wasn't long after I read the book, Jurgensen's book, I'm the kind of person that likes to investigate something and really, really spend time on this. I have to understand something. It must be like an OCD or something, but when I was a kid, I'd take things apart and try to understand how they worked. So with EVP, it was there. My next task was to re-engineer it and figure out, go back in your steps and figure out how this is getting there. And it went from a BlackBerry phone to all the way to Pegasus. And sometimes when I try to think, if you told me back then that it would go from that to Pegasus, I would there's just no chance. How would it even get there? But it's just leaps of faith all the time. So that work, actually, I still read the books every so often. If I find myself losing my way a little bit, and I do, with everyday stuff, so you forget the project, and then you kind of I fall in and out of love with it, and so I always go back to my roots, and I'll read a Jurgensen book, and then I'll read it from the start again, and I'll think, yeah, this is why I got into this, because he wanted to find out what it was all about, and I think somebody died there. Is that an EVP?
Do you know, just before we went live, I could hear him really badly. And I said to Dave, if he gets too loud, I'll send him a text. And Dave said, do you remember back in the day when you just used to go stand at the bottom of the stairs and you'd be like, don't think I'm far from.
So what are your biggest influences then for you to take it to that next level?
Yeah, because I think I felt a bit. I mean, there's been so many researchers after that mainly in places like Brazil. So I keep in touch with some people over there. There's somebody called, is it Annabelle called? Oh, I can't remember. And sorry for forgetting this as well. I've got her on Twitter and Facebook, but she's a really nice woman, and she used to record as well. So there's people, and Ernst Senkowski as well. Before he passed away, I managed to meet him, and he was due to come to one of my events as well, but he passed away a week before, which was a shame. So we were going to meet up in Germany, and he was around during. He was the first scientist to really look at things aside from Rowdy. So I think what I found was that Raymond Cass and Jurgensen and Rowdy all tried to bring it to the media, and the media actually took it seriously, and they were really invested in it, and they saw this as a breakthrough, and these books called Breakthrough, and then it just excuse the pun, it died off, but it really did. And then you kind of had these small groups of people that broke off and did their own thing, and then it was just sort of left. And I thought, nobody's doing this, but there's got to be something, And then when the first voices came through, and I remember as well, I mean, there's people who get some good recordings, but even now I'm really proud that New World Science always has this madness come out, and we've established that bridge, So I just wanted to carry it on, and I'm sure, once, hopefully in many years to come, when my day comes, and I pass over, I want that to carry on, and I want somebody else to take it over. I want that to be, for this to be a cornerstone for people in the future to learn from, and because I don't think it's ever going to just be like, right, it's got to a point, fantastic. I think it's just always going to advance. We're always going to learn from it. We'll have a couple of steps back, a couple of steps forward. It's just it's a long-term project.
It's definitely long-term. I mean, you push yourself anyway. Once you get to a place where you're happy, you are then like, okay, so how can I build on this?
I always, one of my character flaws is I get, when I've took on a challenge and I've completed it, I get a little bit bored and I lose a bit of focus, and that's something I've been working on, is completing things. So the great thing about this work is it can't be completed, and that's why I've stuck to it. But yeah, I just think it'll always go on, and I'll always be looking for new ways of, I mean, this now going from hardware, which we hit the maximum of, over to software, that's kind of, I'm learning that all over again. And I'm getting some help with that as well from my friends. So we're really, and we're getting some audio experts to help us as well design something. So this is another new territory,
See, that's moving it on to the next level, though, isn't it? Which is, I wouldn't say it's what you needed or the machine needed, because the machine was fine as it was. It worked. It might have set a few fires, but it worked. Didn't really need progressing any further. But you being you, and I suppose it's pretty similar to Bayliss back in the day, because Bayliss started with the reel to reel.
Yeah.
We've just had this conversation about reel to reel. Can you imagine how difficult that must have been back in the early days when there was no other form other than reel to reel, and doing all those recording sessions that must have taken up hours upon hours of time and effort.
Raymond Bayliss, or
yeah,
he used a wire recorder, and wire recorders like a really thin piece of metal wire, which is, it's almost like I wouldn't go as far as a hair strand, but they snap really easy and the quality is rubbish. So trying to get that, you can still buy a wire recorder, they're really expensive, but they use them mainly in the military, I think, in America, in the army over there, military. So the sound quality was always really poor. But I guess one of the good things about the machines back then is everything was set up to sound vocally good, whereas these days it's all about bass and treble and different things. Back then, you tend to find that the machines were set to get vocal frequencies and make them sound good, because it was all about hearing people's voices, hearing people sing, not necessarily about how a drum would sound. So when you get a new machine trying to play EVP, with all the processors that they've got, it can be a bit of a nightmare, because you've got low pass filters, high pass filters, and they're always trying to make everything sound better, but in fact they make everything sound worse and take it away from the vocals. So sometimes using simplified stuff actually does work better, but it's not as great as going, right, I can just get a digital recorder and just do a quick recording. Imagine wiring the whole thing and setting reels up, and that's a nightmare as well.
I couldn't. I don't think I would have the patience to do it, but I don't think I would have the patience to do it on a regular basis. That would be something that I pulled out once in a blue moon, if you were.
Yeah, and the reels, I still use reel to reels every so often now, and it works really well.
Back in the early days, Eamonn, we're going back a few years here, but when I first met you, wasn't you using reel to reel then at one point?
Yeah, it was, and I've been a bit lazy, really. I've been using digital stuff because we do as well on that, but there's something, what we get are different voices on the reel to reel. So Lena doesn't really come through on the machine at all. So on laptop recordings and stuff, she comes through really clear. Vincent comes through a lot more on the machines, but he doesn't come through on the laptop, when we're using the microphones on that. You do get them come through, but it's almost like either they don't know how to get through, how to use it, or they have set people for set ways of recording. So again, that's something in itself.
I mean, would that beggars belief though, really, when you think that let's go on to mediumistic people, they say that when they have their spirit guides, they have more than one, they have several, and they have different ones for different things, and different ones will step in for different purposes. So could that be pretty similar to Vincent and Co? Yeah. I'm saying Vincent because I know Vincent more than the rest.
I guess it can. And then with Vincent, you tend to find that when you ask for him to come through on the machine, he's got this deep booming voice that at first scared the living hell out of me, but it's such a gentle soul when you speak to him. It's how do you do, and everything's really polite and really calm and nice. But his voice is suited to the machine because you've heard all the high-pitched stuff. Lena's voice. Lena might be on there a lot more than I realised, but she'll probably get lost amongst all the rest of it. One of the things I haven't mastered with Pegasus and what we're in the middle of doing is we can get male voices through really well because there's so much high-pitched sound, and that's because of I don't know, actually. I don't know what that is. We're still trying to figure it out. But we can get through male voices quite well, but female voices can sometimes get lost in the high-pitched sounds. So you kind of they have to talk at a lower tone to get out of that area. So, a few times when people have heard the machine go, is that demonic? Like, no, they're just trying to work around my crap engineering. They're just talking. They're talking in a lower tone so that we can all hear them. And then, you can speed it up later if you want, but they're just trying to work around it. So they're working with what they've got, which isn't great.
Have you got any recent EVPs that you've picked up?
Yeah. I'm doing. I've been in the middle of putting not a podcast, but like an audio book together. Not even an audio book. Just
could we call it a catalogue?
Yeah. So a bit like what Raymond Cass put out and Jurgensen put out. So I'm doing the same. I've just done the first one actually, and it goes back to 2009, and it's all like the first recordings and the explanations, and there's loads of stuff that hasn't been in the public where I've gone, God, I forgot about that. Stuff like with my nan just saying go to bed and my granddad saying go to bed. I like staying up, and I wasn't getting up early enough. So there's a pattern, and then it gets on to, and there's some great ones where ex-members of New World Science who you can hear us discussing, and we're all like, what is it? What? And you hear that innocence of we don't know what was about to happen in the future, and to hear them conversations really takes you back. Like the first time we heard Vincent come through, I found a recording of that, and we're like, did you hear that? Could you say your name again? And it's, my name's Vincent, and we're trying to figure out, is Vincent, what's the name meaning of Vincent? I think we figured out like Lena, I think the name meaning of Lena was the bringer of light, which we wondered if maybe that's not her real name and she's used that as some sort of anagram or something. I don't know. And it's just, so I think there'll be a lot of releases of this stuff, but so much to get through. I've been promising people for the last 100 years I'm going to release all this stuff, and I look at the files, I'm like, oh my god, it's worth loads and loads. But we'll get it.
I vaguely remember like a 3-hour conversation once where it was like, we need to sit and go through this, and I was like, I will gladly sit and go through it, and you was like, yeah, okay, and then it never happened. It was like, no, I'm building an answer.
A lot of folders, but it's getting there, and I've got all the equipment now to get everything sorted, all the editing stuff. So I thought, right, I've got an aim of doing one every 2 weeks because that's realistic, and then just explaining a lot more about it. So we're investing a lot more in New World Science. COVID has slowed things down for everybody with everything. We wanted to go to Germany this year. That obviously didn't happen with everything. But I think we're going next year to do some more presentations because I'm keen to keep that. Although we don't directly benefit from it, in fact, we don't at all. It's fun, but it just keeps that community alive. So where they lost a little bit of hope, so the people like Jurgensen and Rowdy all went to the VTF, which I usually go to a lot. And I go really just to keep it alive. I feel like I owe them something, or owe it to them to keep it going. But it's an absolute pain getting over there. It's definitely a road trip. And yeah, oh yeah, and also trying to plug machines in over there on a 2-pin socket was.
I was just going to say that, like,
yeah,
surely going to different countries.
I had to make a fake earth for the plugs because there was an earthing problem. So it's all to do with isolation and stuff like that. But yeah, there was every time you touched the chassis of the machines, you could feel a buzz. So it worked. So that's the main thing. We also, funnily enough, have Pegasus. And I need to remember this on events, but we have a thing saying we can't have anybody with pacemakers nearby because of the sheer amount of EMF that it puts out. So,
I was just going to say, is that the voltage?
Yeah, it's just so much, so kind of.
I mean, it's handy if somebody's got a bit of AF going on, just step a little bit closer. Go on, you're all right. You should be all right now. Did you feel that, Kit?
You just get tingles and things like that on your arm, and I need to check it, to be honest. I need to get it. No, it's all safe. We do the pacemaker thing is because of the magnetic field that's built around it. We need to be, insurance purposes, and obviously we don't want anybody to die.
Well, no. Yeah. We don't mind mutant spiders, but we don't want anyone to die.
Oh God, them things. They're probably running around now. They've been in storage so long. They're probably running the place. I don't know. I have no idea. But I might leave it there actually in storage.
Just build a new one.
Just build a new one. It's only taken me 6 years to build. Just knock another one up.
I'll only take 10 minutes. What you want about?
Although I can't remember how I built it. That's the thing, is I have to. So when I took about 8 months out of the work, and when I was looking at the machine, I had my mum with me looking at it, and I went, I don't understand any of it. I was just looking at what was I thinking? Just looking at this device, I just don't understand how it works. I had to retrace all my steps to try and understand how everything works. And when I did, it was great. But before that,
we're not got no blueprints.
No. I think the paranoid self of me at the time didn't want to create any of them and then lose them and then someone else create them. So I thought I'll just use it off memory. But of course, if I lose my memory, then the project's screwed. So I have started to put things down, and we've got other trusted people now that have special privileges to what the future's got and things like that. It's even in my will, believe it or not. So
what has the future got?
We're working.
I mean, obviously, you've got an investigation to come out on with me and Dave in October.
Right. Yeah. The future. There's a few things, and I'm not just saying this either. There are a few things that might surprise some people in a good way. COVID's delayed some things. There was something in America that's going to happen next year, as long as Trump hasn't burned the place down. But
good luck with that
going on. But yeah, from a project perspective, there's a visual system we've been working on. We've kept that under wraps. We've shown some examples. I think you may have seen some images in the past, and
I was just about to ask you about that.
Yeah, we have
incorporated a screen. Yeah,
we have this crazy vision, or I have this crazy vision that it's not called crazy vision. That could work, but it's we got these faces come through really early, really early into the project, and it was unexpected. We thought getting the voices through would be an achievement alone. Then the faces kind of came through, and they found that easier. But I held that back and said, let's master the voices first, because then they can tell us what to do next. But we've been working on a visual system, and we've got some stuff I'm going to release soon that just says stuff with Tesla, where he says things like, can you see me now? And then you get if you freeze the frame, you can see an image, half of his face, quite clear. I think that's the one I put out. And you can see that. And that's with the recording as well. You can hear him say, what about now? And you hear them testing. But the problem is it's free. You have to freeze the frame on the video. So it's not a consistent, it's just little flashes of images, so you have to go through on your computer and just go frame by frame.
But then the machine, when in its early days, you know, that wasn't easy either, and you had to go through these stages with that. So it's progression, but it sounds like it's going to be an interesting progression.
One of the things as well that we discovered is the high-pitched voices or the high-pitched sounds that we can't understand might actually be visual. It might be. So when you listen to like if you record, if you go on YouTube and have a look at people recording images on reel-to-reel and they play them, and then you've got a filter on your computer which shows an image off that sound. It was brought up by my friend actually a few weeks ago. He said, what about if all along they've been transmitting both vocals and both, you know, and pictures? I kind of had a moment of like, oh crap, I've been trying to stop that as well. You know, I've been trying to get rid of that. But there is a possibility that transmission that they give us has images with it. It's just how.
Well, go back to the skull experiment. So you know that they infiltrated the camera, the films of the camera with images. So you know it's not something that is never been done before. It is something that is possible, but nobody's followed up on it until now.
So one of the weird things to find is that you think sound would be easier to get than video, but actually videos. Anomalies and different things are far easier to get than the sound. It's just making it consistent. With the sound, it's consistent for us, so we've got something to work with. With the visual stuff, it's very sporadic, and apparently it's hard work for them to do it. And we have a set date. So sometimes what we'll have on a recording is they'll say like, you know, Wednesday next week, and then or they'll say a date. And then you know that something big's going to happen. Like you'll get weird things happening in the vicinity. Like if you have a radio on, you'll hear a little bit of an interruption. So you think, all right, there's some EMF going off here, or phone signal goes a bit weird. And then it's almost like they put all their effort into that one moment. So yeah, it's. So interesting.
The expectation in the paranormal community is massive, because people see these TV programs, these films, and they go in expecting something massive to happen. A lot of the time I think we're looking too hard for this pivotal moment that we're probably not going to get, when in actual fact we're missing all the small things. So you know, like you say, like the little bits that come through sporadically.
I think it is baby steps. It's small bits of progress. And, you know, I remember when I first tried to record, I got nothing. And for ages, and I just couldn't. Tried everything, different tape recorders, different tapes, white noise, not a soul, nothing. Well, pun intended, but, you know, just nothing at all. And I just thought, what a load of crap. Because I didn't get anything at first, you know, but then I was telling somebody that it's a bit like having I might have even said it on the last show, it's like having a telephone call, isn't it? It's if they've got your number and they want to speak, your phone's not ringing all the time because sadly that person doesn't want to ring you. But if somebody wants to get in touch with you, they'll ring your phone, and it's a bit like EVP. If someone wants to contact you because they've got a message to give you, I firmly believe that they can find a way. You know, although our technology, although what we're doing at New World Science is good, brilliant really, but it's nothing compared to what they must be doing to making it happen. Without them, without that bridge, I think the machine would be completely useless. It has to have those operators, and that machine is made for them operators, and they know how to use it best.
So what's your take on some of the EVPs that are going round, that have been going round over the past few years? What do you make of them?
I think it's tough, because I always find this one. Do you know, I get some investigators who'll come to me and say, and I've got a lot of respect for people who invest that time and everything to go into it, but I always do it in a way that I'm not judgmental, because I always think, well, they might, if I give them a negative response, they must think it's because he does EVP. But there's some that are actually good. I've heard. I think you have to see how it's done. That's one thing we always do at New World Science. We always make sure you can see exactly how it works. Like whenever we've done an event, this is how it works. This is what we do. Let's do a recording now. Let's play it back, rather than somebody come in with a recording and go, I got this earlier, but then I got nothing during the investigation. So I think there are some good people. I've heard some great ones. It's a shame Marcello Bacci's passed away, because I always wanted to go and see that for myself. And yeah, it was one of them where I was like, I tried to get in touch with his family. I think his family or his friends, because for me, that was one of those where I thought, I actually believed it. Please, sorry about that. I'm in Manchester, so what do you expect? But yeah, so it was a shame. I always wanted to see that. That's one of the things where I thought I need, seeing is believing.
See, with him though, it wasn't just the machine; it was the airport as well.
Him as well, yeah. And I saw that video. Was it on the Skull Project? Well, it wasn't that, but it was on the same video on YouTube. I think somebody went investigating. But yeah, you get like pictures, like bits of jewelry and stuff. For me, that's crazy. I mean, I can never see our machine going that far, because.
But they're saying that the Skull experiment got similar. They got airports as well. Have you never had anything that's just randomly appeared?
Yeah, I've said all that, and then just that stone. Do you remember that eye stone that I kind of had?
Yes.
That appeared before the first recording, and then I was told it was a gift. I've never had anything since, and I remember getting that looked at by a geologist who couldn't confirm what it is, what kind of rock, and they wanted to send it off to America, and they wanted me to pay, I think it was 17 grand or something to get it investigated. But if I was to send it, I have to sign it away if it's something important. So the stubborn side of me was like, nope, I'm not sending it. It was a gift. I don't know what it is. It's one of them where if your house burns down, that's probably, obviously people aside, in terms of possession, that's the first thing I'd take out. And I don't know why. I just always, I don't know what it is.
It appeared.
But, yeah.
It was meant to be, right?
But we've got some pictures that we've taken, interestingly, I should put this up actually, that have that same symbol. So the eye stone, if it should be on my Twitter actually, that has like this, it looks like the Eye of Horus, but then it looks like a person in the middle. And we've taken some pictures where you can actually see that same symbol near the machine as well, kind of like a background, sort of, like a shadow or something with that symbol. So that's the only thing I've ever got. And it was one day I was in my back garden and I looked, and it's a flagged garden at the time. There's nothing there, clean garden. And then I went to tie my shoelace, and I don't know, something made me look down. And then when I moved my foot, I was actually stood on it. I thought, how did I not even notice I was stood on it? And it
how
was
did
just
you not
there.
feel it?
Yeah, it was just sort of there in the middle, and I just kept looking at it. But you just know something is worth something, but I'm not sure what it. I don't mean financial. I mean it means something. So I kind of kept it as a kind of like a mascot now. I always have it with the machine. So, but it's weird. It gets like it gets cold, it gets hot.
Do you not think that maybe that was something that was supposed to go with the machine?
Or in the machine. Mm-hmm.
Or in it?
We've not found out how, but we have played around with the idea. One of my ex-members, New World Science, still get on really well. The problem with New World Science is it can get intense when you just listen to Voices of the Dead all day. And he wanted to break it to see what was inside. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's not Kinder Egg, mate, but let's just keep it inside. I don't think there's anything inside, and I don't think that would be a smart move, wouldn't it? That an advanced civilization gets in touch with us, gives us this amazing thing, we just break it like we're in the Stone Ages. So I think we may try, because we use chemicals, not chemicals, but chemistry in the machine anyway. To give you a bit of an insight, so where we got things like, where you have things like quartz that's in different transistors and things like that, we've got all sorts of obsidian, mercury, we got all kinds of different things, probably about 16 or 17 different things that help us with the signal, and it's all to do with timing and frequencies and things like that, and all of them have voltages blast through them and stuff. So
is this like some sort of crazy Tesla coil that's just gonna?
Yeah, way more than that. Yeah, but it can't. Yeah, it is in a way, because you're energizing everything, but that all goes through. That's the antenna in a way, and so the antenna isn't just a stick that's getting signals come in. We call it an antenna, but it's different really. It's more like a receiver of.
So it's not like the old TV antennas then that you stick in with a little.
You don't have to like point it anywhere.
More calling Mindy, come in Mindy sort of thing.
Yeah. But it makes its own magnetic field. Hence the pacemaker issue. Should really do some more health checks on it, to be honest. You can't take it anywhere. It could kill people, but it's all good fun. It's all
mutant spiders, death.
Yeah, I mean, there could be. We don't know what's going to. It has a door that opens as well, so I can just imagine. If you shut that, there's spiders in there that have grown.
They can't get out. They're that big.
Yeah, they're just stuck. Like, okay, we'll just leave that.
How big's the door?
It's not like 6 foot, Dave, is it?
You can walk in and then you can disappear and go somewhere else.
It's about 5 foot, the door. It's big.
Oh.
So yeah, it's a proper server door, and it made me laugh actually, because when I was moving, friend asked me, he moved me. He was like, "Oh, what's this?" "Oh, it's nothing." And he's moving all this stuff, all these chemicals. I couldn't tell him it's to speak to the dead. It just didn't feel right. It's like, it's just a computer. He's like, "It's an odd-looking computer."
Or that it's got mercury in it and mutant spiders.
Really
it's nothing.
Careful, mate. You're not got a pacemaker, have you? No, you go.
Don't drop it.
Yeah, just don't drop it, else we're all in trouble. It will burn, it's but yeah, it just looks odd. I had to disguise it really as a computer server, and it just didn't. It's got all these tubes, coils coming out of it, warning signs all over it, just that's some computer.
iOS.
Exactly.
You've got to wear
all
gloves.
All these people with hazmat suits, they're not for COVID.
Oh, no,
They've just been near the machine. That's what's scary.
Makes me funny because there's a lady called Pat who's in the storage unit who walks past it all the time, and like sometimes if I'm in there and she's like, "Oh, all your bits and bobs," I thought she has no idea what this is for.
So how do people take what you do then? Because we know that the paranormal field can be quite temperamental at the best of times. Without people that are not in the paranormal field coming along and like, "Oh, so you're a Ghostbuster then?"
I think it surprises people, because people who know me outside of any of this, I've always been a career person in video games and TV anyway, so I've always had close connections. I build teams for studios and brands and stuff, so I've always had quite a decent career really, which I've enjoyed. And then when I throw that in, that's kind of like, what? But the games industry is a very creative industry that's open-minded, so they're just like, "Oh, it's cool, it's wicked." I don't know if they believe me, but I'll tell them and just,
I can just imagine a game coming out now. Eamonn Barras, build your own Pegasus machine on the game. And you little walking around everywhere.
Not get electrocuted, But yeah, so it's always hard. I mean, I spoke in a recent talk in the games industry, and somebody actually asked me that and said, "I recognise you." Well, I know you don't. Who do you know? And I try to keep the two separate, because I try to keep it away from my career. But and I think if you keep something as a hobby, problem is with the telly stuff and putting the machine on it and having deadlines and stuff, it stopped being fun, and it became work, and not a decent work either, because the paranormal for me is not an industry I'd want to ever work in. It's very difficult, it's very divided, it's very hard you can't please the masses, and you certainly can't in paranormal. And yet there's some really good souls in there. There's some, again, no pun intended, but there are some really good investigators in there that are kind of covered by the noise of other people, and I wish they would step out a bit more and show us their abilities, because I was that quiet person for a few years that didn't come out with the stuff I had, and kind of pushed by my friends and family, to be honest, to get it out there. So yeah, it's always a bit of a weird conversation starter. You're thinking of the quiet person, aren't you? No, I was. No, I'm not. I was with paranormal to begin with.
Didn't say a word. To be fair, Eamonn did not say a word.
Yeah, I've heard this. There is a rumor about me behind the scenes that I can be a bit mean, but I'm not. I'm not.
But you can be what?
Mean, apparently, when it comes to.
I've never seen you be mean.
I'm really focused on what
I've only known you for a few years. I've never seen you be mean. A few years.
I'm really
however many that might be.
Like with a machine, I'm serious when I'm actually fixing it. So I can be a bit short with people sometimes.
Well, to be fair, back in the old days, setting up on investigations, I wouldn't even talk to you. I'd just be like, there you go, see you later.
Yeah, just leave him to...
until you was all set up, and then I'd be like, hiya.
I was like this relief on my face. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, my God, it's done.
You just used to turn and you'd look at us and you'd be like... It's like,
I used to envy everybody else
time for a brew.
Yeah, because I'd envy people who would turn up and then would just like, yeah, we'd enjoy this event. And I'm like, I can't even make this thing work. Like, how am I going to... People are expecting something here, and... and then, but by the end of the night, it was great fun, and I think the takeaway for me at the events was to see people who had an experience with the machine. I thought all that hard work and all, them nights of like can't sleep because I'm thinking of how something would work, to see people happy with what they've got was like a big thing for me. And I was like, right, that's why I do what I do, because it's going to help somebody else,
And you love it.
Yeah, and I love it. I have days like any other thing where I'm like, right, I'm done with it. I can't. Yeah, all right, I love it. And
I think I leave the paranormal field every week. In all fairness, every week I'm like, that's it, I'm done.
I try to stay. It's before we went live. Like the paranormal field's a strange one because I've got friends in there, but I try to stay out of it from a day-to-day perspective. A bit like the general world at the minute on social media isn't a great place, so there is a bit of negativity, and I just ignore it. I just work in my bubble. And
you should see, like, my Facebook posts are hilarious. If it's not me out doing something really silly drunk, I know that's going to surprise you, Eamonn, but it does happen occasionally. There's posts like, I don't want to human today. Today I'm going to be a goat. Eat all day and headbutt people that annoy me. Do you know what I mean?
Somebody said to me, like, what do you do to really think of, when you're thinking of equations and things like that for the machine? What do you do? Do you read a book or something? Like, no, I watch fail videos on YouTube. I have to get away from it, switch off completely, and watch a bit of comedy and something that just makes you laugh and smile, and then get back to it. Because if it's too intense, your mind will just burn. I
can literally just imagine you sat watching one of those, those YouTube videos. What are they called? Try not to laugh at these or something.
Yeah,
I could just imagine you watching something like that.
There's been some times where I've read some things about, and it's really complimentary, saying that it takes some mind to build something like this. And I thought, if they could just see what I get up to
behind the scenes,
videos and dogs on skateboards and stuff like that. This isn't the act of a genius. This is act of
what a man. What a man.
Stick to your roots. Stay grounded at all times. Watch goats trying to jump over fences and chase each other and stuff.
But you see, you've just covered it there. Staying grounded, staying who you are. Like you don't have what's the word I'm after? Your ego is not the size of a double-decker bus.
No.
You will just say, I am just a person.
I think I'm the first as well to, if I've made a mistake or if I'm very aware, like when I was doing the telly stuff, the first thing I had it in my head, I was like, I've watched some people make fools of themselves doing this, and I don't want to do this because I want to do this because I want to get the work out there, and I want to try and inspire other people. And I enjoy it as well. I enjoy showing the work, but I don't want I don't want to get lost in this false sense of celebrity crap. You know, I don't want to do that, because there's two sides. There's people who are out in TV who really inspire people. You know, like you get your David Attenborough, people like that. He doesn't do it because he wants to go to parties in Soho. You know, he does it because he loves what he does. And that, for me, like Louis Theroux, he loves to push the limits and find unusual stuff and get himself in unusual situations. I like people like that, and I always saw myself more like that than somebody who's just in it to, you know, be a celeb or anything like that. And I always, it was always something I was mindful of. And I've got this thing as well, is of, you know, never be afraid to peel the onion and look at yourself. I've done that for the last 2 years, actually, with the work as well, and look at how I can improve the work, myself as a human being, and never be afraid to learn new things. Don't be stubborn on what you've got already. Like, I'll listen to another investigator, and I like people's input, you know, as long as it's not ridiculous and stupid and overbearing sense of importance that they've got. As long as they're humble people, I'll put an arm around them. I'll be like, right, yeah, let's chat. Let's see what we can get done together. Let's make crazy stuff together, you know. And yeah, because I think there's so much that we coined the term student of the earth, which was going to be what my book, which I'm writing, was going to be called. But
hang on.
Yeah, have I said that? It's coming.
No, you told us about the collection.
Yeah, so I've been writing a book for the last 10 years, and I've spent more time on it, and it should be out by summer next year, I reckon. So we got
away with that, didn't you? You thought you'd let that slip, and I'd missed it.
I wanted to kind of release that at the same time as the work, but I thought I'll get the work out there and then a book. And but yeah, it was.
Well, they both go hand in hand, in all honesty, do they not?
I think in the importance as well. Like when I was reading back the book, it was kind of like a diary of everything. And it's amazing because there's bits I've left that haven't changed, where I'm like, my understanding back then to what it is now. And actually, you see me as a person grow through this, you know, going from my sort of early 20s to mid 30s. And that's quite when you get to your 30s, obviously you get that special book of knowledge that everybody gets, where you're wise and you don't make mistakes. But you can, you know, like, and I became like a
I'm just going to check my bookshelf because I don't think I got that book.
Yeah, mine's
on the DVD.
But you know, in between that, I became like a father and stuff, and your perspective on the world changes. The way you look at the actual recordings change. The way you interact with people, and you become, you just change as a person. So reading it back to now, and then when I write, it's like 3 different people writing. It's weird, but yeah, it's insightful.
Eamonn, the nutty professor, everyone.
Yeah.
What a ledge. And on that note, guys, we've been going for an hour and 22 minutes, and I still don't even think we've scratched the surface.
It sounds like it's going to be a third.
All right, it's just going to be a regular slot, isn't it? Let's be realistic here. We'll just rename it. It's not going to be Entering the Unknown anymore. It's going to be the Eamonn Show.
Oh, God.
And everybody in the chat room, don't think that I've not noticed you're saying that my posts are about gin and Gemma knows gin, because I've seen it. Naughty people. Eamonn, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you tonight. Don't you disappear, because we need to chat off screen.
Right, okay.
Just so as you know. He's really bad, everybody. He's like, bye, see you, and he's gone. It's like, all right, bye then. Bye then. Doodles. So everybody that has joined us tonight, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure as always. Any final words, Eamonn?
Yeah, you know, I was thinking about this just then. I was going to say that if you are in the paranormal, or you're kind of getting into it, or you're already in it, just keep learning. Ignore the noise that's around, unless it's an EVP, of course. But I mean, if it's a funny time out there in the world, but you've just got to look within and trust your instincts and keep learning. There's so much to learn in this world. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. Dave, any final words?
No, I think Eamonn summed it all up.
And in that case, everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been an absolute honour, and we will see you again next week. Good night, everyone.